Hello everyone, welcome back to Tech with Alok. This is session number 3 of our free Certified Kubernetes Administrator course 2026, where we are learning Kubernetes from beginners to expert level. This is completely free of cost. If you are preparing for CKA certification, planning to become a DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, platform engineer, or simply wants to understand the Kubernetes from scratch, then you are at the right place. In this course, we won't just learn the commands, we will first understand every concept with simple real life examples, and then we will move to hands on practical demonstrations. If you have not watched the previous sessions, I highly recommend watching it first because every session built upon the previous one. So let's start without wasting of any time. Let's get started. Okay, so in today's session, we will learn what is Docker and why the Docker was created. So before we understand, let me start writing this first. What is Docker? Why Docker was created? All right. So before we understand Docker, let me ask you a simple question. Imagine you are a software engineer. You have spent 2 weeks building an application. Finally, after lots of hard work, your application is ready. You test it on your laptop and you find that on the application side everything works perfectly and you feel happy with that. Now you push your code to the GitHub repositories and your teammate pulls the latest code. A few minutes later, your teammates calls you and say, Alok, your application is not working. What you immediately reply, that's impossible. It works perfectly in my machine. Has anyone heard this sentence before? Like, it works on my machine. This is one of the most famous sentences in the software development. For years, developers around the world face this exact problem. But why does this happen? Let's understand. So, why applications fail on different computers? I think I've misspelled. All right. Suppose you have two laptops. This is laptop 1. Let me write it down here. Laptop 1. And this is laptop 2. Both laptops have Windows. So you might think they are identical, right? But they are not. Let's see. In the laptop 1, it has Java 17, Python 3.10, Node.js version 18, and Ubuntu as an operating system with version 22.04. Let's take an example with the database as well. The Postgres SQL instance, which is 15th version. Okay. Now on the laptop 2, it has Java 21, Python has a different version 3.12, Ubuntu let's say 24.04, Postgres SQL, which is the version of 16, and that's all. So we understood we have two laptops, both the laptops having the Windows system. The machine cannot be the Windows because we have installed the Ubuntu, similarly here as well. Alright, even though the application code exactly the same, the environment are completely different. Your application depends on all these components which are present inside the operating system. Even one dependency changes, your application might fail. This problem becomes the bigger problem when you move from development to the testing and then to the production environment. So that's why developers spend hours fixing environment instead of writing the code. Now let's take a real example. So let's understand this with very simple example. Imagine your mother gives a cake recipe. Let me write the cake recipe to 5 different people. Let's say we have 5 different people. Person 1, okay, so now your mother gave the cake recipe to all the 5 different people. When everyone prepares the cake, one cake tastes amazing, another is too dry, another could be the burnt one, another does not rises properly. So you ask yourself, did the recipe change? You will understand, no, recipe is not change. Everyone used a different environment, different oven used by the different oven used by the person 1. It could be possible the different flour used by the person 2. Person 3 could be possible like it is used by the different temperatures, and similarly goes to the until 5, and let's say the 5th person use the different cooking time. The recipe remained the same, only the environment changed. So this is exactly the software application behaves. The code is like this recipe, the computer environment is like the kitchen. Different environments produce different results. I hope you understand this real life example. Now understand what is Docker. So now imagine something different. Instead of giving only the recipe, pack everything required. Let's say the flour, the butter, sugar, oven, and other utensils. The exact cook and the exact cooking instructions. Now no matter who opens the packages, they will get exactly the same result. This is exactly the Docker does. So in the simple definition, we can write Docker is a platform that packages your application. Here in your case it could be the recipes. So Docker is a platform that packages your recipes if you're taking the real life example. In terms of software development roles or software industry, you can say Docker is a platform that packages your application together with everything it needs to run. So we understood Docker is a platform that packages your application together with everything it needs to run. So in terms of real example, you can change the recipes instead of application. So everything is bundled into one portable package. Now your application behaves the same way, same on every machine. When it is your laptop, your teammate's laptop, the testing server, or on the production server. I hope you understood what is Docker. Now let's move to the next one. What does Docker actually packages? So we understood in the real life the recipe of the cake could be bundled in one of the container, and we can ship it from one place to another person, one person to another person. But in the Docker, in the software industry, what the Docker actually packages? So think about a Java application. Does it need only a Java code? Java application. So let's take the example of Java application. So if we say we have written an application which is in the Java language, so if we package into the Docker or in the form of container, does it only contains the Java application? No. It also needs the JDK, the Maven, the libraries, and it could be some environment variables and some configuration files, and it could be other operating system dependencies. So Docker collects everything together, nothing is left behind. That is why the Docker containers are portable. I hope now you understood what does Docker actually packages. So within the Docker, it would be having the Java application, JDK, Maven, libraries of the application. It could be environment variables, some other configuration files, and OS level of dependencies. And we can ship, this is packed into one container, and we can ship from one person to another person, one developer to another developer. So it will work as same as it works in your system. Now we understood the Docker and what Docker actually packages. Now have you ever thought about what is containers? So this is the another important term, and sometimes the interviewer asks the question, what is Docker and the container? So many beginners confuse about the Docker and the containers. So just think, Docker is a platform, whereas a container is a package created by the Docker. Container, a package created by the Docker. So let's understand in a simple term the same thing. Let's say, let's take an example, real life example. So have you ever seen a shipping container at the sea airport? So inside one container, companies can transport electronic items, clothes, furnitures, food, machinery. The truck which will be carrying that particular container doesn't need to care what is inside the container, right? Similarly, the ship which will carry that particular container does not need to care. Simply the crane who will be picking up the container and placing it to the another place does not need to take care of the container and what is inside the container. They simply move the container from one place to another place. Docker container works exactly the same way. The Docker container carries everything an application needs. Wherever you move the container, the application behaves exactly the same. That's the biggest advantage of the Docker that we have achieved after launching this particular technology. Now, let's move on to the next topic. Why companies love Docker? This is again an important question that the interviewer may ask if you are preparing for an interview. So let's understand why almost every company uses the Docker in the software development. So Docker provides, we understood on the example, above examples, environment everywhere, faster deployments, could be lightweight applications. We will talk about this lightweight applications in the upcoming session, but this is again one of the examples. Just excuse for the spelling errors. Easy portability, and we understood in the previous session, better resource utilization. So whether you are working in a Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, or any startup or a mid-level company, so Docker has one of the most standard technologies used in the modern software development. So with that, let's recap everything what we learned today. So we understood what is Docker, why was it created, why applications fail on different machines or systems, we also learned about the real life example, the cake recipe, and how Docker packages everything together, how Docker packages everything together. And we also understood what is containers, and the example of the container in terms of shipping container. Now you know the problem Docker solves. So understanding this foundation is much more important than memorizing commands. So with that, I would conclude this session here only. So if you found this session helpful, please hit like button and subscribe to Tech with Alok. This really helps me to motivate to make the new videos about the new technologies, and I would be very happy my learners learning the new technology, and this could help them to learn in the upcoming interviews or whenever they will be going in this particular career. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment sections. I will be very happy to answer them. Also share this free CKA course with your friends, colleagues, and who are preparing for the Kubernetes or DevOps interview. At the end, I would say thank you so much for watching.